Before the storm, there was light, and that light was him. From his earliest days, he stood apart. While other children stumbled over words, he devoured pages of books like they were oxygen. While teachers struggled to solve equations, he would finish them in his head, then quietly tell them the answer before their chalk even touched the board. People thought it was magic, but for him, it was simply how the world looked. Patterns, numbers, ideas. Every problem wasn't a wall, it was a doorway waiting to be opened. And it wasn't just knowledge, it was vision. He dreamed of things before others even knew they were possible. He could see the world not as it was, but as it could be. By the time he was a young man, whispers followed him everywhere. Some called him brilliant, some called him dangerous, and many envied him. But here's the truth most didn't see. Even geniuses are human. Even the sharpest minds hold tender hearts. He carried loneliness like a silent companion, and in that loneliness, he searched for someone who could understand him. Then came Elena, and everything changed. At the height of his brilliance, it seemed nothing could touch him. His creations were changing lives. Leaders sought his counsel. Competitors whispered his name in fear. For a moment, it seemed he had achieved the impossible, untouchable, unstoppable, unrivaled. But success has a way of painting a target on your back. Among the faceless crowd that praised him was the one who would strike the hardest blow. Elena, the woman he trusted, the woman he loved. Betrayal. One moment she was his closest ally, the next she was the knife waiting in the dark. She didn't just take his trust. She didn't just take his love. She took everything. The betrayal had a name, Project Seraphim, his crowning achievement, the invention that would change the world. And Elena's love? It was never real. It was all an act. Every smile, every touch, every whispered promise, just a mask. Because behind that mask, Elena belonged to Reinhardt, his greatest rival, her real lover. Together, they played the cruelest game, acting, pretending, waiting, until they were close enough to steal the one thing only he could create. And then they struck. Project Seraphim vanished, reappearing under their names. His empire collapsed overnight. He was painted as the fraud, the unstable genius, the man who fell to his own lies. The collapse was complete. Wealth gone, reputation destroyed, love shattered. And while he lay in ruins, Elena stood by Reinhardt's side, smiling, victorious. For weeks he could not say her name. For months his mind drowned in rage and grief. Nights filled with questions that had no answers. But sometimes pain forges something no comfort ever could. Every scar became steel, every insult became fire. Alone in the silence, he began again. Not from love, but from betrayal. Not from trust, but from rage. And slowly, something was awakening. They hadn't destroyed him. They had created something far stronger. In the dark, he discovered the truth. They could take his inventions, they could take his empire, but they could never take him. Because the true brilliance was never seraphim. It was always in his mind, his will, his hunger. From scraps of paper and broken tools, he built anew. A design greater than seraphim, an invention beyond their imagination, something forged in betrayal, crafted in solitude, sharper than revenge itself. And in that moment he realized he was no longer the man she fooled. He was reborn, no longer fragile, no longer human in the way the world understood, born again, stronger. When he returned, the world stopped to listen. Investors who abandoned him now begged to sit at his table. The invention they once mocked dwarfed Seraphim so completely, Reinhardt and Elena's empire turned to dust before the crowd's eyes. And when he stood on stage, unveiling his masterpiece, the silence was deafening. His presence filled the room with weight, power, brilliance untouchable. Elena and Reinhardt sat frozen, their empire already crumbling. They thought they buried him, but they hadn't buried him. He looked at them once and said, "You thought you broke me? You didn't break me. You built me." And their world collapsed. Reinhardt's fortune bled dry. Elena's name was dragged through mud. Every deal collapsed. Every ally fled. Their empire, built on lies, fell apart brick by brick. And he made sure of it. Patiently, precisely, he dismantled what they built on his blood. He exposed their thefts, revealed their fraud, until they were left with nothing. Homeless, powerless, forgotten. And him? He stood above them, stronger than ever, his revenge complete. He told them one final truth. You needed me to rise. I never needed you. Their silence was the sound of defeat. In the end, the true victory wasn't in their fall. It was in his rise. Because what they stole wasn't what defined him. What mattered was what they could never touch. His fire, his vision, his will. The man they betrayed no longer existed. What stood in his place was someone untouchable, someone greater. Born again, stronger. So remember this. When everything crumbles, when betrayal takes everything you love, when you think it's over, maybe it's not the end. Maybe it's the beginning. Because the fire that destroys you can also forge you. This was his story. A genius betrayed, reborn into legend.